Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of our program. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we have with us Sharon and Mark Rients, who are owners of UME Custom Embroidery and Imprinting. Welcome to the program, Mark and Sharon.
Oh, thank you, Mike.
Good morning.
Hey, so get us started with a little bit of your background and what is the business that you're in?
Well, we are a independently owned embroidery, imprinting, and specialty products company. We started the business about 16 years ago in our home, and we've grown to a much larger business and are recently relocating to a larger shop. But we do embroidery, screen printing, specialty products, signs, banners.
Basically, if you want your name on it, we can provide it.
You know, that I like that. And in fact, is that a tagline or did you just say that?
No, that's one of our taglines.
I was going to say that just really flowed really well. It really is nice. So if you want your name on it, we can. So what is the most unique thing that you have imprinted a business or an organization's name on?
Probably floor mats for a car.
That's neat.
Yeah,
and you would not think that's not a typical, T-shirt, pen, coffee mug kind of a thing. So floor mats on a car. Nice.
Yes. They came to us and wanted a name on a floor mat, and it was a thick plush pile carpeted floor mat, and we said, yes, we can do that.
Yeah, that's not one of the ones you would think, I'm going to do an advertising campaign and say, does your business need your logo printed on a floor mat? But that's really unique. That's and I'm sure that would take a different process than a traditional screen print on a T-shirt, right?
Correct. We actually did that with the embroidery machine.
Oh, nice. So that's and what that, in my uneducated perspective, that sounds to me like that's going to last a lot longer than if you did some type of a screen print because your feet are on it and could rub off, whereas the embroidery, that's going to last quite a long time.
Correct. And, it's just a bunch of stitches of thread, but it's amazing what you can do with a skinny, tiny thread and a little bit of technology.
Yeah. And do you have the equipment where a lot of that is automated and computerized?
Yeah, the way the process works is we start by taking the computer and we design the text or the file or whatever it's going to be. And the program we use puts vectors to where the needles are going to go up and down and how much everything's going to move. And then when it goes to stitch it, it just takes all that information and the machine interprets it and the product comes out.
Nice. Very good. So your company name, UME, Custom Embroidery, what does the UME stand for?
That stands for you and me.
Oh, so like together.
Yes.
Cool, that's neat.
Without you, I can't be in business.
Excellent. Ooh, I like that. And that's actually, we could probably talk for hours on end on that concept. In fact, one of my clients, I was in a all-hands staff meeting with them this week, and they were talking about, they were doing like a quarterly review with their team, and they were just talking about how important the people are, both the customers, the employees, and the vendors. I mean, this company takes a holistic approach where they say, we not only want to please our customers, we want to serve and please the vendors we work with. But what the point was there is the employees are so important, the customers are so important, and you are not just getting money from customer A and delivering the product and saying see you later. It is a relationship. So I think that's really powerful when you have that as part of your name. So not only do the customers realize that feeling, but it kind of reinforces it with you over and over.
Right, and that's one of the things that we've always tried to do is as we have customers, we don't want a one-time relationship with a customer. We want an ongoing relationship where we can both benefit from what the transactions that take place in our businesses.
And what type of
ahead.
What is your typical customer? Do you do one-off jobs for individuals, or do you work with businesses mostly, or what does that mix look like for you?
We do one-off things for customers. That's not our primary business. We prefer to work with smaller, medium-sized businesses, church groups, different organizations that have the ability to order more. We can do one item at a time, but with one item, you're starting from scratch, and there's a lot of setup fee. And for most people, they don't understand that it's going to cost them more to have a one-off item done than it would if they were having 25 or 50 of them done.
Yeah, that's a really, and that's with a lot of things, but there's just the setup and then the prep and the customization, and to give you, the smaller number is going to be a certain number, but then to give double or triple that, it's not going to be double or triple the price. So I think that's really important to remember, because there's a lot that goes on in the back end just to get the whole machine fired up.
Correct.
Is there any type of product that you tend to specialize in, that you find that people typically need more than others from you?
Most of the small businesses that we work with want apparel for uniforms and that type of item for their employees.
And do you find that they're using that for, uniforms or apparel for going out and, using that in the field or operations or things like that? Or is it a mixture of the two?
It's a mixture of the two.
And then what would you say makes you different than other custom products companies? When someone would call you up and say, please give me some information, they're calling other people. So what is going to be something that sets you apart?
Probably our level of service. We try to provide a personal level of service. When we get a customer's order, if it's an embroidery product, before we even stitch on a garment, we will produce a sample and do a sew out and get their approval on it before we move forward with any production work. If it's a screen printed product, we try and give them a digital sample that shows them what it will look like. And that way they're not surprised at the day they come to pick it up to say, oh, that's not what I wanted.
And that way it also makes them feel like they're part of the process as well. Not only are they not being surprised, but they feel like there's such open communication that they're having input all along the way.
Yeah, and that's what we like about it, and that's part of the relationship that we like to build with our customers.
And I think that's super important. Is there a certain line where there's certain flexibility and communication and customizations, but then there is a line where your process is your process, and there's some things you just cannot do just for the sake that a customer might need some sort of customization that just isn't possible? Is there any examples of that where it's kind of common that a custom embroidery type company would be asked to do something that it might make sense for the customer to ask for it, but it just becomes impractical?
Yeah, sometimes when we get artwork that has a lot of detail in it, when we're dealing with stitches, we have a limited size that we can go small, and a lot of people don't understand that when they're looking at their logo, it looks really good in print, but when we try and do it in stitches, we can't go any narrower than the thread, and if we don't go a little bit wider than the thread, then we are not able to really represent things. And small text is one of those things that a lot of people have these taglines that they put underneath their logos, and they think it looks really cool. But if you try and put that on a shirt, because the shirts are squishy and the fabric moves, small text tends to get lost, and people. Yeah. So there have been several times when we've worked with customers on the artwork side of things where we actually say, we can do this. However, you're not going to be happy with it. We're going to have to make this change and this change to make it so that it's legible. And then when we talk about really small, fine detail, we say, you know what, if you really want that, we're not going to be able to provide that. We're going to have to find another way to do that decoration.
And I think that's a really good point, because sometimes you need to draw the line as the business owner, knowing that it could possibly end up being a issue after it's delivered, because they're thinking in their mind it's going to look a certain way. You're knowing it's not going to look that way, and then when they get it, it's going to be something that they're not pleased with. So I think that's a really good approach to take, because you would much rather politely and kindly and just like you described, guide them away from that, or turn the order down, knowing that it's just not going to come out. And it kind of is the less is more concept, right?
Yeah, exactly. One of the other things that we have to deal with quite a bit is some people don't understand that there are trademark license agreements. And when it comes to trademark things, we're just not able to do them because we haven't paid the licensing fees as a company to be able to reproduce those trademarks. And
if you did that, then the fee to the customer that you're talking about for that project would be way more because of all the work and costs. So yeah, that's another good point. I've seen that in other industries where there's copyright on music or things like that people think, well, you just need to come record my event and we're going to pay you for that. But there's so much more that goes into it. So that's a good point about the trademarks.
Right. And that comes into when people bring us artwork and say, can't you do these things? And it's like, well, there is a limit to what we are able to do and what we're not able to do. I mean, we can do anything, but we have to cross that legal line. And we put a lot of work into our business, and we don't want to step on the other side of that legal line that's could possibly cost us our business.
Yeah, and not that would ever happen, but if you want to step over that line, you want to step over that line with the right legal steps ahead of time so that you're doing it the right way. Well, guess what that means? It costs the business owner, yourself, some money to go through whatever it would take to get the permissions and compliance, things like that. Well, if that were the case, that's going to raise your cost of doing business, and then that has to be passed on to the project. Well, if it's a big enough project, maybe it makes sense. If it's a one-off or a small project, it probably would not make sense for even the customer to consider, right?
Correct.
So can you think of any challenges or obstacles that you faced in growing your business over the last 15 plus years? And then how you overcame them?
Well, probably the biggest challenge has been getting new customers. As with any small business, getting new customers and getting enough customers built up that you have a consistent base to get orders and stuff from is always one of the challenges. And it was for us as well. One of the things we did to overcome it is by getting referrals from other customers that we've worked with. The Chamber of Commerce has been very helpful in helping us get in contact with new businesses that come into the area. And just working with a couple of different groups around the area has been another way that we've kind of worked through and grown our business.
Yeah, that's really important is in anything, any business, number one, you want to create that trust because people, consumers, want to buy from someone that they know, like, and trust. Well, sometimes they don't know what they don't know. And when they can look around and see that they were referred to you or that you were referred, by the Chamber of Commerce or you've spoken at some events or they see some reviews and testimonials from past clients, that immediately so powerfully closes that gap and creates that trust. So with 15, 16 years of experience, I'm sure that you've got a lot of that in place and there's always those opportunities to make those new inroads with a new group. So that's really, really good to hear. Can you think of an example of some of the best advice you've received, either starting out or in growing your business from the perspective of, maybe you were connected with a mentor or someone that gave you some really good advice business-wise?
Well, probably the best advice that we ever had was the worst they can say is no. And no's are kind of hard to take, especially when you're not a thick-skinned salesperson, but, they don't kill you. And a no doesn't mean no to you. It means no to what you're offering at that point in time.
Yeah.
And that was kind of one of the biggest things that we had to overcome when we started talking to people about business and, offering our services, is that no is not fatal.
And we've had a couple instances where we've received a no, and then a year later, months later, they call and say, yes, by the way, we remember having this conversation with you, and we'd like to work with you now, even though we didn't in the past.
That someone could write a book on that, because there's so many life and business lessons in that, and that person saying no was not a mean, vindictive, aggressive no. It was just no, not, like you said, not at this time. But too many times we personally or professionally will take that no as the sky is falling. And if you just keep those lines of communication open, it just pays off. And when you were mentioning that, it made me think of something I've heard in years past, that in business, you tend to want to hear a quick no rather than a slow maybe. It's like, just let me know. Let's move on. And if it's a no, great. We'll high five over the phone, or we'll keep in touch. And maybe, if your needs ever change, we're still here. But, let's not drag it out and hem and haw, because now all of a sudden it takes up resources from both sides of the equation. So that's a great mindset to keep in mind is, some will, some won't. So what? You move on, and many times they come right back around. I think that's a great mindset to keep in mind.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of those things, and it helps us to walk in and, because we try and develop a relationship with some of our customers, the ones who order from us more frequently, we've started to keep a candy jar in their office and just walk in and refill their candy jar and just say hi. It's an easy way to keep our face in front of them. And it's amazing how many times when you fill the candy jar that you walk away with an order that you didn't expect. My first job out of college was with a rental car company, and they did the same approach where they would take donuts once a week to all the body shops, and you would just drop off donuts. You'd have the bumper sticker, with the logo on there, so they know who they were, and they'd be busy, and you're not going to chat. Sometimes they'd look up and you wave and then leave them, but that really does keep you top of mind, and it creates that relationship. And it doesn't have to be expensive candy, but it's just a thoughtful gesture. I think that's really wonderful. So can you think of one or two things that you would give a new entrepreneur if someone is looking to start any kind of a business? What would be one or two things that you would give as some advice in getting started? Well, probably the first thing I would say is, and it's something that we do, so it's easy for me to say this, but get your name out there. No, if you walk in and you're wearing a generic shirt and nobody knows who you are, it's harder to remember. But put something visual with it, like a logo or a business name or something like that, so that you can create that impression and just be proud of your logo and wear it.
Yeah, that is excellent advice, and just you never know where that getting the name out there, or that networking, or that connecting with groups or individuals is going to lead off. So super advice. Thank you so much. What's the best way that people can get in touch with you to learn more about your business and see what your products and services are?
Well, our website is umecustom.com.
And our phone number is 303-833-4021.
Super. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate your time. It's wonderful getting to know more about your business.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.